Yes, indeed, folks, listen to Blue Please. You're on CynicalBrit.com with myself, Total Biscuit. Like I say, I'm out of content, so I'm going to have a look in the mailbox and see what we've got. We've got many things. You can email them into themurloc@gmail.com. Over the course of the week, if you listen to the podcast, by all means, I like your content. Themurloc@gmail.com. I'd love to say that as a podcast host, I'm able to come up with content out of thin air, but honestly, I'm really not. Blue Please has always been a bit of a stream of consciousness show, and some things that I think about over the course of the week become topics on the show. When I'm not playing WoW, because I don't really have a functional guild, it's a little bit difficult to think about it in general. When there's nothing coming out on MMO Champion that's worth having a look at, there's, again, nothing I can really come up with. That said, hey, there you go. Okay, here's an email coming in, and I like the look of it. I like the cut of its jib, per se. So let's get it started. Hi there, RTB. I'd like to hear your thoughts on a somewhat different form of entitlement. Apart from one relating to in-game content, on which you poured out quite a lot of bile, almost felt the entirety of Wrath of the Lich King. I, for one, think that the monthly subscription fee does entitle the player to some things, though these things do not relate to in-game content but the infrastructure surrounding the game experience. For my money, I expect Blizzard to provide me with the following. Reliable, fast, i.e. non-lagging service with a maximum amount of uptime, and maybe even some form of population management or control. Good technical and in-game support, again, reliable and fast, and a safe and uncomplicated account system. We all know that griefers, hackers, keyloggers, and all the other arseholes take their toll on this, but that is to be expected, and one should think that Blizz tried to get ready for it. Do you think Blizz is doing enough to ensure a working infrastructure? And given your stance on promoting authenticators, what would be your reaction to people saying that it is part of Blizzard's customer service to provide maximum safety for accounts? And if authenticators are the only way that they should be providing to players instead of being used to generate cash, then surely they should be giving them out themselves. Well, that is an interesting idea, is it not? Well, first things first, we'll take on the first one. Is it entitled to suggest that you as a subscriber should be given a service that is, for the most part, reliable and high performance? The answer is yes, without a shadow of a doubt. That is the duty of Blizzard, to provide you with such a service. Now, of course, there will be inconsistencies with that service. That's the nature of such a large server-based operation. I mean, any website has downtime. Any website has maintenance. Any service of this size has issues that will crop up that are not necessarily foreseen and will take a little bit of time to deal with. That said, can you honestly say that Blizzard's service overall has been to the level of quality that you would expect? And a lot of the time I would say no. I mean, one of the things that I would expect for my subscription fee, for instance, is enough content to justify. For instance, let's think about how much have we paid so far for ICC. Bear in mind, that was the last piece of content to come out. Now, one can also make the argument, of course, and they will be entirely correct in doing this, that you don't just pay for that. You pay for other things, like, of course, the upkeep of the servers and the staff and all that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, I've paid £54 for the benefit of playing ICC, and I'm not entirely sure that I've gotten my money's worth. I believe I mentioned this last week. When it comes to the level of service, most of the time it's pretty good. But yes, you are entitled, indeed under the law, certainly in the UK, under the Supply of Goods and Services Act, as I recall correctly, a certain default reasonable level of service. And if you do not get that, then yes, you are absolutely entitled to that, and it is not unreasonable to say that you are. It is not overly greedy to suggest that your money should buy you a good service, without a doubt. Well, what about the rest of that email? What about that other part? Well, the idea of providing authenticators as standard. It's an interesting idea, isn't it? But just how far do you go with that? Therein lies the problem. When you open that gate, when do you get to close it? And indeed, can you ever close it? It's kind of a Pandora's box, isn't it? It's the real definition of a slippery slope. If you cave to the demand of, say, free authenticators. Now, there are already free authenticators, and there are authenticators which are absurdly cheap. You've got things available on almost every modern mobile device. You've got authenticators also available, of course, via the web store. So they are providing free authenticators, just not the physical products, which of course need to be stored, which need to be shipped, which need to be manufactured. They are physical items. They require a person, an actual real-life person, to put it in the envelope and post it to you and process your order. The big e-commerce thing. They require an infrastructure for that. It has to be staffed. And of course, again, wholesale manufacturing of these damn things. It is not unreasonable to suggest that these things should cost money. But I think one should then ask the question, if you make these things available, and if you then make the mobile version available for free or next to nothing, have you fulfilled your duty to provide a security option for your customers? In my opinion, yes. It would be nice, and indeed it would, for the most part, eliminate the vast majority of gold selling and nonsense overnight. It would eliminate hacking overnight. Of course, it would still happen to a very small degree. The man-in-the-middle attacks can happen, but they are so uncommon. They're way more difficult to pull off, and indeed very situational as to when you can do them. You can't simply just keylog someone and then come back later and steal their account. It doesn't work like that. It's a lot more difficult. At what point? I mean, do you expect Blizzard to, say, secure your house now? What happens if your authenticator gets stolen? Is it Blizzard's responsibility to deal with that? What about if you don't have an authenticator, but you leave your password lying around on a piece of notepaper, on a post-it, and someone takes it? Or you tell someone it, it slips out in conversation, or you share your account with people, and then it ends up getting hacked or whatever. What responsibility does Blizzard have at that point? How much should they secure your operating system? I mean, think about other things. Think about your internet service provider. Is it the ISP's responsibility to stop you from getting hacked? No, it's not, is it? Is it the ISP's requirement, or indeed, is it the bank's requirement to secure your account beyond a reasonable point? And the answer is, of course, no, it's not. They are upheld to certain standards, which are the same standards, I might add, that Blizzard adhere to. Admittedly, they're not as stringent, because we're talking about a service here. There is a reasonable expectation of security on your account. For instance, you do not expect to have your bank details or any of your personal information taken from your WoW account by hackers. That is the kind of thing that Blizzard is responsible for and would be liable for, indeed, if they did not provide suitable security for that. But if you leave all of your information lying around, or if you give it to someone and then some of your stuff gets taken, is that really the fault of the company in question? Well, it's not really, is it? Let's think about it. It's hard to draw an analogy. Right? You can't really accurately say, oh, well, what's the bank's responsibility? A bank's a financial institution, for God's sake. You can ruin your life as opposed to ruining your virtual character and maybe having your retarded horse stolen. Big deal. But one way or the other, the authenticators have been made available as an additional level of security and are available on a number of different mobile devices as well as in a convenient key fob. Should they be given away for free? I don't think that expectation should really be leveled at Blizzard, honestly. I don't think that's their responsibility. It is your responsibility to keep your account secure to the best of your ability. That's not to say that zero-day exploits don't happen. That's not to say that some things can slip through the net, but let's be honest here. Let's be completely and totally honest. The same kind of people that get themselves hacked repeatedly are the same kind of people that don't have a firewall, that don't have up-to-date antivirus, that still use Internet Explorer 6, that don't have an up-to-date copy of Windows because they probably downloaded it from Pirate Bay years ago and never bothered to get a real, genuine copy that can actually be updated correctly. They're on old OSs. They have machines full of spyware. For whatever reason. Porn sites. Illegal download sites. Keyloggers hidden into key generators that they've downloaded from the Pirate Bay or whatever. All sorts of things. Newsgroup uploads. All these kind of things. All these different possibilities for getting nasty, unpleasant keyloggers. I'm not saying that everyone who's ever got hacked ever is that person. Absolutely not. There are plenty of people who have been hacked outside of their knowledge. They've taken reasonable precautions and it's happened anyway. But let's be honest here. the same kind of people that get hacked repeatedly are, generally speaking, the same kind of people that don't take care of themselves and don't take care of their security. And do you really think they're going to bother with an authenticator, even if it's given to them for free? Should you really hold the hand of such people? Some of the security of your account is your own responsibility. You are entitled to be protected to a reasonable degree, and indeed, you are entitled to additional protection if you so choose to acquire it. But I don't believe you're entitled to free stuff. I think that goes beyond that. Let's be honest. Okay, let's go and have another look. Another email here from Chris Howard. With the Ruby Sanctum turning out to be such a letdown in its design, its looks, and its content, do you think that the majority of subscribers to WoW turns out with a bad reputation and everyone dislikes it? What? That doesn't even make any sense. Let's try and decipher this. I'll get the scientist team out here right now. So, anyone speak Swahili? Because that's what it looks like. Right, okay. I think I've deciphered this. So, I think what he's saying is that Ruby Sanctum might give WoW a bad reputation, and then Blizzard might actively take the hint and try and create some new and exciting instances, or just continue with the same boring stuff they've churned out for over a year. I think they're already doing that, but the problem is they're doing it in Cataclysm and not now, and they're bleeding and hemorrhaging subscribers from every possible orifice in order to do that. They're hemorrhaging resources in order to make it happen. I mean, look at how slow the content development's been lately, and look at what they have to offer. I mean, all you've seen is expansion shots. Ruby Sanctum doesn't have a single new art asset in it, to my knowledge. I would imagine that the majority of the gear in Ruby Sanctum is recolors and reskins, as opposed to brand new stuff. It's not a new tier of content. It is a small instance. It is approximately the same size as Obsidian Sanctum, because it's the same goddamn map. There is different terrain on it, things have been moved around a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's Obsidian Sanctum with a new coat of paint. That indicates to me that after ICC was done, their major development team went off to go and deal with Cataclysm. And I would imagine that ICC beforehand was being dealt with by a semi-skeleton crew. So, I don't think we're ever going to get anything interesting till Cataclysm comes out. And of course, Blizzard is hoping that Cataclysm will make us forget all about this nonsense. Will it? Well, maybe. Possibly. It might. It might have that effect, I suppose. But will it? We don't really know, do we? We have to make an assumption, and indeed we have to make a kind of a desperate hope that Cataclysm is going to be the saviour of World of Warcraft. Blizzard have a good track record, but I'm sorry, Wrath of the Lich King has sullied it quite significantly. And it does take an awful lot of effort to get that consumer goodwill back. I mean, think of the number of things that have infuriated us. The constant nerfs, the 6 months of garbage content at the start of this expansion, the lackluster Tier 9, utter lackluster content right there, the repeated ICC nonsense, the fact that ICC's been sticking around for 6 months and we've got no other option, the fact that we've reverted back to binary hard modes when it was quite clearly shown that non-binary hard modes were the best option in Ulduar. Indeed, Ulduar stands out as by far the best instance that Blizzard has put out. I would go as far as to say ever. Honestly, I think it is better than pretty much everything else. I think AQ40s may be pretty hot on its heels there. Maybe some of the TBC content. Sunwell, for instance. But Ulduar's pretty damn good. That was the height of Wrath, if you can call it a height. I mean, it's all relative, let's be honest. And they're hoping that we forget about all of that. They hope that we forget about the casual appeasement. The entitled casuals getting away every time. The repeated caving in of Blizzard to the will of bad players. I mean, for God's sake, the option, I say option, it's not really a choice, as I've explained in previous shows, that freaking buff. Like, hey, yeah, let's nerf the content that not everyone's finished yet. But we'll do it in the form of a buff, which you can turn off, which no one will actually turn off, because you've given us literally no reason to. There's not even an achievement for it. There's not even a feat of strength. There's not even a pat on the head for, hey, you did this content when it was actually hard and not completely nerfed into the ground. And they're hoping that Cataclysm makes us forget all of that. Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to have to be a damn sight better than what we have right now. It's going to have to be the best expansion that they've ever put out. It's going to have to blow TBC out of the water to make me forget about this nonsense. These are the Dark Ages, ladies and gentlemen. Cataclysm is their supposed renaissance, and my god, I hope they pull it off. Because otherwise, I guess I'm going back to DDO and Bestio. They're both kind of fun, aren't they? My name is Total Biscuit. You are listening to Blue Please here on CynicalBrit.com. We have played no Power Metal today, and I think, quite frankly, that could be considered, by many, to be a disgrace. I'm going to fix that right now. Nocturnal Rites, ladies and gentlemen, this is End of Our Rope. I'll be right back after this with the Illusion of Choice. Yes, indeed. Enjoy.